Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Dark Gem. The moment those words left his mouth, the audience hall immediately stirred with murmured debate. A single cloud blanketing the whole of Eternal Peace Empire should have been all but impossible, yet it had truly occurred. Eternal Peace Empire possessed vast lands spanning 90,000 miles from east to west and 80,000 miles from north to south. And now the entire territory was buried under snow, even for 6-7 continuous days, something that should have been impossible. Divine arts practitioners could summon wind and rain, yet at most they could only make rain fall and wind blow within a small region. They could never command a spell capable of covering the entire Eternal Peace Empire. However, this was no natural calamity. It rarely snowed south of Gold River, and it was even more impossible for rainy or cold weather to appear south of Surging River. Furthermore, by Lee River, all 4 seasons were like summer, so there was no possibility of snow there. If that still wasn't enough, the snow had descended upon the whole empire at the same time. Emperor Yanfeng coughed lightly, silencing the ministers. Minister of Agriculture, there are likely quite a number of ministers who do not understand how terrifying this snow is. You may explain it to them. An elderly minister stepped out from the ranks. He was the Minister of Agriculture of the Eternal Peace Imperial Court, overseeing the farming of the entire empire. He bowed and said, "Your Majesty, ministers, this snow disaster will not affect the next year's harvest for the villages to the north, since they are accustomed to enduring winter and have already made preparations. The crucial point lies in the south. After this immense snow, the villages of the south will likely be frozen clean. When the next year comes, the south would most likely have no harvest at all." The Minister of Revenue immediately asked, "Minister of Agriculture, by the south you mean?" "Everything south of Gold River." All the ministers drew in a cold breath, and even Chen Mu was shaken. He, too, had a geographic map of Eternal Peace Empire. Gold River originated in the Great Ruins and stretched tens of thousands of miles eastward before flowing into the ocean. The land south of Gold River accounted for 2/3 of Eternal Peace Empire's land. This meant that 2/3 of the Empire's land would have no harvest. This, Your Majesty, I believe we should redirect rations and fodder from all places to the south, making preparations to send relief. Grand Servant stepped out from the ranks and bowed. The South has just gone through war, so there are many counties that still require relief. I fear the rations there have already been depleted, so may Your Majesty channel rations from the north to save those people from this disaster. Minister of Agriculture let out a sigh. As of now, we cannot channel anything. The lords may not know, but the war has depleted rations, and most are already gone everywhere. If we divert rations to the south now, they will only be consumed by starving people. Once these rations are finished, we won't even have grain to plant anymore, and there will be nothing to eat when autumn comes. Lord Grand Servant, if the starving people have nothing to eat, they will start eating humans. Are we supposed to just let the people of the South starve? Minister of Agriculture said, "Provisions must be transported to the South, but we have to supply them in limited quantity. We must give them only enough to survive. There are indeed some granaries in the South, but they all belong to influential families and landlords. If we try to touch their provisions, I fear they would instigate the disaster victims to rebel. Your Majesty." Emperor Yanfeng's expression sank, and he said, "I will think of something regarding the provisions of the influential families and landlords. Continue." "Yes, other than the South, there is another great disaster looming over us," Minister of Agriculture said. "The North is usually cold in winter, but it is even colder this year. Walking through several counties in the North, I discovered farmers chopping down trees to burn for warmth. This has caused many forests to be cleared out, leaving the land bare. For the North, which can endure the cold, to be driven to chopping trees for warmth, you can imagine the present situation in the South. If the trees in the South are completely cleared out, mountain torrents, landslides, and floods will certainly become endless. A natural disaster can give rise to a man-made disaster, and a man-made disaster can give rise to many more natural disasters. Yet if we do not allow the victims to chop trees for warmth, I fear countless people will freeze to death. When that time comes, I fear most of the families will perish." Emperor Yanfeng drew a deep breath, and the ministers of the imperial court also fell quiet. The silence was so complete that even the sound of breathing felt harsh. If they did not chop down trees to burn, the farmers would freeze to death. Yet if they chopped down the trees, further disasters would follow. A snow disaster had driven a vast empire like Eternal Peace Empire into circumstances where they had no choice but to make a difficult decision. Minister of Agriculture continued, "The crucial point is that we do not know how long this cloud will last. If the gloomy cloud disperses in a few days, we can minimize the damage to the lowest. But if it does not, the empire will be in danger. I understand." Emperor Yanfeng leaned back, looking powerless. "Now, my dear ministers, do you understand how dangerous the situation is? Recently, some renegades rebelled, yet I remained unworried and paid it no heed. I knew nothing would come of what they were doing, and they would be eradicated by Imperial Preceptor and my dear ministers. However, this snow disaster and this cloud are going to break our Eternal Peace's fate. Dear ministers, do you have a way to resolve this?" All the civil and military ministers were silent. Even with their remarkable abilities, they could not blow away the cloud or melt the snow. Emperor Yanfeng looked at his ministers, anger and anxiety churning in his heart. "Snow, a single cloud, were these going to tear the empire apart and destroy their 100 years of effort?" A civil official said, "I believe this is because Imperial Preceptor's reform has angered the heaven." Emperor Yanfeng erupted in fury. "Drag him out and execute him." That civil official immediately dropped to his knees and cried out with all his strength, "Your Majesty, heaven has its heavenly law, and Imperial Preceptor's reform seeks to change the heavenly law, so heaven is angered. The people will suffer under heaven's wrath, powerless to do anything about it, Your Majesty." Men! Emperor Yanfeng was enraged. "A disaster has descended upon our empire, and you still rush to delude the people with lies. If he is not executed now, must I do it myself?" The guards inside the emperor's audience hall dragged that civil official away. The man's cries gradually receded into the distance. Emperor Yanfeng paced about, suppressing his fury. "I want ministers who can do work, not useless puppets who only know how to slander. This reform is what I want, not what Imperial Preceptor wants. If heaven is angered, then let it be angry at me and make me suffer. Imperial Preceptor is a capable minister, not to say 500 years. It is rare to find someone like him even within 1,000 to 2,000 years. All of you will think of a solution for me. If you cannot think of anything, there is no need for any of you to go home, and no need for you to celebrate New Year's." "Your Majesty, why not store the cloud away?" a voice asked from within the audience hall. "Since you cannot chase it away, why not simply store it away?" All the ministers turned toward the speaker, and Emperor Yanfeng's gaze also settled on him. "So it is Palace Grandee? What fine idea does Palace Grandee have? Why not share it with all of us?" Qin Mu said, "I have seen treasures like fire bottle gourds in the army, which soldiers use to store their true fire. When battle comes, they release the fire stored inside. When Hall of Supreme Healing slipped in refining medicine and paralyzed the entire Imperial College, the former Grand Chancellor used a bottle gourd to store away the anesthesia and save Imperial College. I was thinking, could we use treasures like bottle gourds to also store away this dark cloud?" Emperor Yanfeng looked toward the General of Heavenly Strategies and asked, "General Qin, do you think this can work?" The General of Heavenly Strategies bore the surname Qin and the given name Jian. He was the head of the generals and also the sect master of the influential Qin family in the capital city. He stepped out of the ranks and said, "Your Majesty, what Palace Grandee suggested is plausible. However, there are not that many fire bottle gourds in the army. What we use are wisteria bottle gourds issued to the Vermilion bird troops across the world. There are a total of 1 million such bottles in the entire empire, and that amount would only be enough to store away one province worth of dark cloud. With so many provinces in the empire, it is not possible to rely solely on the army's bottle gourds." Qin Mu spoke again. "Even if the army does not have many bottle gourds, the empire has many officials who cultivate spells and influential families with powerful people. The imperial court also has numerous strong practitioners. With a decree from your Majesty, You could order all of them to create treasures to store away the dark cloud in the sky. With so many people, the county magistrates, young magistrates, and magistrates who are also strong practitioners can take responsibility for the areas under their jurisdiction. With the army's strong practitioners going to assist in each and every place, we can expect to mostly remove the dark cloud. Emperor Yanfeng pondered for a moment. There will be some difficulty in mobilizing the divine arts practitioners of the entire empire to dispel the cloud. There are wandering divine arts practitioners in the martial world who do not heed the imperial court's orders. Therefore, we will need your majesty to do it yourself, to set an example before the whole world, Qin Mu said. If your majesty leaves the capital and goes to each province to store away the dark cloud, the people will naturally follow suit. Most of the civil and military officials exchanged looks. If the emperor left the capital to store away the dark cloud, the remnants of the sects would likely seize the chance to assassinate him, since their rebellion had only just been quelled. The eternal peace. Imperial Preceptor went to the great ruins for battle and was ambushed, which resulted in his return and failure. If the emperor were to leave the capital, he would certainly face all kinds of assassination attempts. Just as everyone was about to speak, Emperor Yanfeng's eyes brightened and he smiled. Right, Minister Qin, do you have any other ideas to deal with this snow disaster? The snow disaster is already here, and I'm helpless to do anything. Qin Mu said, I once heard a saying, the path of a saint is no different from the path of a common person. With so many divine arts practitioners in the world, if the sun comes out and melts the snow, we can have these divine arts practitioners personally go down to help clear the frozen villages. They can help plant the grains again, and there might even be a harvest next year. If there is no wind, we can invite divine arts practitioners to send wind. If weeds grow, invite divine arts practitioners to remove the weeds. If there is insect damage, invite divine arts practitioners to remove the insects. If there is frost damage, invite divine arts practitioners to use fire to get rid of the frost. Your Majesty, these are words of the devil. A civil official stepped out from the ranks, trembling with rage. Your Majesty, what Palace Grandee has said are words of the devil. This will damage the country and harm the people. He must be executed on the spot. Emperor Yanfeng smiled. His sentences are very correct, so why are they words of the devil? Those are not words that damage the country and harm the people. They are good words that heal the country and save the people. Your position is revoked. Go home and reflect on yourself. Minister Qin, what other good strategies do you have? Qin Mu pondered and said, Your Majesty can also have the Minister of Supervision observe the weather in all areas. In flood years, we can store rainwater into spirit treasures like bottle gourds. In years of hurricane, we can store the winds inside spirit treasures. We can store tornadoes, hails, lightning, every one of them for our own use. If we meet years of drought, we can release the rain, and if we fight other countries, we can release hail, snow, lightning, and tornadoes. In this way, we can manage our own weather and strike the enemy countries. This snow disaster just now nearly destroyed such a glorious empire's eternal peace. So if this kind of meteorological divine art were used on an enemy country, which one could withstand it? You Majesty, controlling the meteorology is defying the heavenly laws. These are words of the devil. Another civil official stepped out and kowtowed again and again until his head bled. These are words of a true devil and will truly destroy our empire. Your Majesty, please quickly kill this demon of the devil path. You're removed from your position. Emperor Yanfeng waved his hand and smiled. If you have no ideas, do not spout rubbish and slander Palace Grandee. What is the point of me giving you a high salary every month? This snow cloud is what is destroying our empire. Men, drag him out. Palace Grandee, talk is easy, action is hard. You shall follow me for disaster relief. Qin Mu hesitated, speaking with embarrassment. I still have to go home for New Year's. I can recommend some people who could help your Majesty. Emperor Yanfeng laughed loudly. Feeling the dark cloud that had shrouded his heart disperse, he waved his hand. Approved. That is fine. I am in need of people now. If the people you recommend are truly useful, I will not leave you wanting. Duke Wei's heart trembled slightly. Heavenly Devil cult is going to enter the imperial court. Come to say of it, I'm now the heavenly king of Heavenly Devil cult and have long entered the imperial court. This young cult master really knows how to curry favor. With Imperial Preceptor not in the imperial court these days, he took the chance to plant his men. If Imperial Preceptor were to stay away for a few years, I'm afraid even the Emperor would become part of Heavenly Devil cult. Where exactly did Imperial Preceptor go? He went on such a long tour with his wife and doesn't even bother to come back when such a huge thing has happened. Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Dark Gem. This cloud is vast enough, yet it is not vast enough. This cloud and the snow within Eternal Peace Empire are more akin to a warning. In the western reaches, upon majestic Mount Meru, the golden-crowned Great Thunderclap Monastery stood upright in the heavens. It sat upon a stratum of clouds, and old Rulai cast his gaze toward the lands of Eternal Peace Empire. He could see the sun pouring forth a golden radiance, causing that sea-sized cloud to shine with an unnatural brilliance. Once, across the long annals of Great Thunderclap Monastery, we have beheld such a meteorological attack. Beneath old Rulai's seat, countless bodhisattvas, venerables, and arhats stood in dense ranks, listening to his words. That meteorological attack was even greater than this. It arrived with heavy snow and a like dark cloud. The people had no means to live, and thus natural disasters came year after year. Only heaven knows how many perished. Venerable Ku, go fetch the Emptiness-era Morning Emperor scriptures from the depository of Buddhist texts and turn it to the 1367th page. A monk with a worried frown rose and departed. After a moment, this Venerable Ku carried over a thick scripture and opened it to the page old Rulai had named. Emptiness-era, Morning Emperor year 6420. Changes in the meteorological phenomenon. Snow fell for 30 days, cloud covered 80,000 miles. No sun could be seen. Starving people were everywhere. Bandits rose in all places. And Morning Emperor ordered the gods and dragon kings to get rid of them. Morning Emperor year 6430. Meteors descended from the sky. Meteor shower was like a flood. Volcanoes erupted in tens of thousands. The earth trembled, and 1,000 of fissures opened up, drying up the rivers. The ocean was emptied. The next year, the sun disappeared. There was no light from the two heavenly bodies. Behind old Rulai, the hearts of Teacher Poor and the rest shook violently as they cried out, "Rulai, this is great ruins." Old Rulai turned his head, looking toward the boundless, uncivilized land behind Mount Meru. This ancient scroll records the final moments of the divine kingdom of great ruins. The heavy snow and the dark cloud were merely the first warnings. Yet the warning now has come far earlier than I expected, earlier and lighter. It seems Eternal Peace Empire's doings have drawn the eyes of the ones above. Teacher Poor, True Lord Tian, and the others were sent reeling. They murmured, "Great ruins." If the Emperor wishes to quell this calamity, there is but one path. Stop the reform at once and surrender himself, begging forgiveness from heaven and his people. Old Rulai drew his gaze away, eyes deep as still water. Otherwise, this snow disaster will be only the beginning. More terrifying meteorological phenomenon will follow after, and they will no longer be mere snow and a dark cloud. They will consist of meteor showers, volcano eruptions, dried up rivers and oceans, the vanishing of the sun and the moon. This is the wrath of heaven, the anger of heaven that the people must bear. This is too much. Rulai, Eternal Peace Crown Prince, has sent a person to seek an audience with you. Old Rulai was slightly taken aback, then smiled. This Highness has still come to find me. Invite him forward, at your command. Old Rulai smiled at the monks surrounding him and said, His Highness is quite extraordinary, and he might even be the savior of the world. The Emperor might be obstinately clinging to his course, but the Crown Prince is not the same. His envoy should be worth meeting. Dao Sec's Kunlun Jade Void Mountain was called Jade Void Paradise, a realm unto itself. Its 4 seasons were like spring, and it seemed a sacred ground for immortals, in no way inferior to Mount Meru. The cloud that blankets eternal peace is a grave yet not overly dangerous warning. Beside the destruction of great ruins, it is far more trivial. Old Dao Master said to the Taoists of Dao Sect, his pace neither hurried nor slow. Our Dao Sect opposed Eternal Peace Empire's reform not for personal gain, but for the Tao. That reform shattered too many rules and too many principles, and thus it was fated to fail. It is a pity eternal peace imperial preceptor's knowledge was too shallow. He did not comprehend the great terror that would descend. His gaze was profound, yet his demeanor carried calm as he spoke unhurriedly. Back then, when eternal peace imperial preceptor was still young, he came to Dao Sect to meet me. I could see he was out of the ordinary, and I held high expectations for him, so I allowed him to browse the legacy scriptures of our Dao Sect, hoping he would achieve success in the future. As for sectarian bias, I cast it aside. For such a talent, I naturally had to discard sectarian bias and groom him to the best of my ability. Yet when he became the imperial preceptor, my expectations turned to disappointment. Why? Because Tao models itself after nature. Most of Tao Sect's experts sat in stillness and listened. Tao models itself after nature. Thus, we Taoists may summon wind and rain, yet we cannot change the wind and rain, nor can we change nature in the great Tao. I bore no prejudice against Heavenly Devil Cult. On the contrary, I even admire some of its doings. However, our paths differ. Why so? Tao Master shook his head. Tao originates from nature, yet Heavenly Devil Cult wishes to use the Tao to change nature. This is the greatest difference between our Tao Sect and Heavenly Devil Cult. It is also why Heavenly Devil Cult is referred to as the devil. Many Taoists of Tao Sect were faintly shaken. Dan Yangzi said, I have observed Heavenly Devil Cult disciples using spells to move clouds and spread rain. In times of drought, they make rain fall and collect money from the farmers. Some use drilling spells to create wells, solving the problem of having no drinking water. Others use true fire to smelt ores, retrieving metal to forge farming equipment for sale. There are even Devil Cult disciples who collect money from farmers to hunt down demon beasts. Heavenly Devil Cult is indeed going against the nature from which Tao originates, changing nature. Tao Master said, to use the path, skills, and divine arts for the common people is to change nature, to destroy it. To change nature and destroy nature is to change the great Tao and destroy the great Tao. Heavenly Devil Cult's teachings are wrong, so they can only move onto the devil path. Another of their teachings is to act straightforwardly, to follow the course of nature, meaning to let one's desire run wild and do as you please. If this is not what a devil does, then what is a devil? He sighed and said, Imperial Preceptor is too deeply influenced by Heavenly Devil Cult, which is why he has used Heavenly Devil Cult's ideology to run a country. The disasters that Great Ruins experienced will also come to Eternal Peace Empire. This is the punishment of heaven, the calamity sent by heaven. Be that as it may, the people are innocent. Tao Master's tone softened then. All of you shall go down the mountain. The punishment from heaven that the Emperor and Imperial Preceptor have invoked shall not be bore by the people. Go and help the commoners in trouble. Save as many as you can. And as you save the people during your travels, you may also seek out youths with good foundation and continue adding more descendants to our Tao Sect. At your command. The experts of Tao Sect all descended the mountain. Tao Master lifted his head toward the cloud above Eternal Peace Empire and sighed. This shouldn't be borne by the people. If Imperial Preceptor and the Emperor still obstinately persist in going about things the wrong way, my Tao Sect will have no choice but to enter the secular world. Qin Mu contacted the left and right guardians and issued his decree. You shall assist the Emperor in sending disaster relief and in storing away the dark cloud in the sky. You may send our disciples south to help clear the frozen crops and replant them. Many will die in this snow disaster, so do your utmost and save as many people as possible. Also, ensure our disciples remain cautious. Riots will surely arise under such a calamity. The world will certainly not remain at peace. At your command. Left Guardian Ning Daochi hesitated briefly, then said, Sacred Cult Master, what identity shall we assume to assist the Emperor? If the Emperor confers a title on us, shall we accept it? Qin Mu pondered for a moment. Assist the Emperor with your own identities and with the power of the Sacred Cult. If the Emperor confers a title, accept it. If the Emperor can tolerate Imperial Preceptor, he can tolerate us as well. We are part of Eternal Peace Empire. There is no need for paranoia. He paused, then added, even if the world falls into chaos, the divine art practitioners who are accustomed to standing high above will surely be unwilling to become like our heavenly devil cult, serving ordinary people, helping them in their need. Imperial Preceptor once said he killed a batch of contrarians, yet he still couldn't kill them all. After killing one batch, another batch would arise. I thought he was joking, but it seems it is true. Chin-Mu raised his head to the dark cloud overhead, and the smile on his face was not truly a smile. This snow and the dark cloud have birthed a disaster that can destroy the country, yet they still only think about what is devil-like and what is not. Not once have they thought of helping the people. They are likely too used to being high above, thinking that aiding the commoners is an insult. Thus to them, it is the devil path. He shook his head. There are not few such people, and there are likely extremists among them who will seize this chance to rebel or even target our heavenly saint cult. You too must be careful. Cult master, do not worry. Our cult does not possess an undeserved reputation for standing tall until now, nor shall we crumble beneath the so-called orthodox path. The two guardians bowed and departed. Chin-Mu steadied his mind, lifted his head once more to look at the dark cloud above Eternal Peace Empire, then shook his head and returned to Imperial College. Hu Linger, Dragon Qilin, and Dutian Devil King were already waiting on the ship. Chin-Mu said, "We should buy some New Year's goods on the way back to the village. I fear there may no longer be anything in Border Dragon City. With Eternal Peace Empire in such a precarious state, I reckon there will be far fewer merchants there." Dutian Devil King lifted his head, sizing up the heavens as he chuckled. "Your world is about to be in trouble. This heavy snow and dark cloud have shrouded the entire territory of your Eternal Peace Empire, yes?" Chin-Mu's heart stirred slightly, and he asked politely, "Lord Devil King, what wise opinion do you have?" "Kneel down and lick my toes, and then I will tell you," Dutian Devil King said, putting on airs of lofty dominance. Chin-Mu glanced at Hu Linger, and she opened the compartment in the chest area of the eight-armed god statue. She sat down within and controlled Dutian Devil King, forcing him to kneel and stretch his tongue out to lick Chin-Mu's shoes. Dutian Devil King immediately cried out, "Devil can be killed but cannot be humiliated." "Stop, stop, I'll say it, I'll say it." Chin-Mu raised his hand. Hu Linger loosened her control, and Dutian Devil King instantly sprang up. He spat twice and no longer dared to be impudent. These few days, Hu Linger had been strangely clever, tormenting Dutian Devil King until he became submissive. He felt that a wise devil knew better than to fight when the odds were against him, so he could only cooperate with the demon fox. Dutian Devil King raised his hand to wipe his mouth and sneered, "This is the method of a god, and not any normal god. If my true body descended, I could also carry out such an action, using a meteorological phenomenon to attack and eradicate the entire human race. I could wipe out your race and turn this world into the new Dutian. However, the god who used this meteorological attack seems a bit gentler, so they did not strike a ruthless blow. I reckon this snow and cloud are merely a gentle warning." "Warning?" Chin-Mu was stunned. Just a gentle warning? This gentle warning would likely kill millions of commoners. They would not be able to endure the winter. He fell into thought, and his mind drifted to Great Ruins. Because of the decree of a god and a devil, the people of Great Ruins were abandoned and earned the despise of everyone else. If the gods and devils don't die, there will be no end to trouble, Chin-Mu said coldly. "Wife, if the gods and devils don't die, there will be no end to trouble." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor stood upon the clouds high in the sky, staring at that incomparably vast cloud above Eternal Peace Empire. And he sighed with Rue. The woman beside him could only be called of average beauty. She was not breathtakingly pretty, yet not ugly either. She had a pleasant look, and she was one of the palace maids bestowed upon Imperial Preceptor. Among the many, she was the only one who became his wife. Her thoughts were keen as she asked, "Husband did not go back this time. Is it because you feel the Emperor can solve this natural disaster?" "Even if the Emperor cannot solve it, there will be people who will solve it for him. There is no need for me to return." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor smiled. "Let us go to the little jade capital in the sky."